gave you all a card. Did anyone not get a card? So you can either email me or give me your contact information, and I will ensure you get these slides. You don't have to copy down the slides. You can have them. Yes. So why did you come? I feel like you folks over there are a long way away. Do you feel like you're a long way away? Maybe you designed it that way. Back to the classroom kind of people. Maybe I'll stand over here just for a bit. So why did you folks come to this workshop?
I feel like right now we've got a bunch of students that we're leading them and they aren't quite taking it on themselves.
We're leading them, they're not quite taking it on themselves. Yeah.
I think student engagement, student learning happens most effectively when students make those connections for themselves to prior knowledge and reasons to learn and be motivated. So student motivation. Student
motivation, taking it on for themselves. Yeah. Why else did you come?
It's their future, not ours, so they have to own it, prepare it, and be ready for it.
Their future, not ours. Yeah, we're in our future, right? No, that's really, really important. Sometimes we forget that. And anything else that came to your mind when you looked down the list and said, I'd like to go there? Off my dash and good looks.
I think as we're talking about moving off the map,
yeah,
clearly we don't know how to do it. If we did, we would have done it.
Nice.
We're the ones that have the tools. How do we partner with them and motivate them to use the tools you have? Use TikTok, use whatever it is that works for you to build that engagement.
Great. Thank you. Anything else that springs to your mind? I just want to get a sense of where your minds are, so I can lead you where you are. As I go through this, feel free A, to interrupt. Don't think of it as interruption. Think of it as holding me accountable. And B, there is nothing that I'm going to share with you that isn't being done currently in the United States. So I'm a consultant. Sometimes consultants can be a little theoretical, and Christian school management is no different than that. We are immersed in scripture. We're immersed in the research, and we have between us hundreds of years of experience. And when you put the three things together, that actually matters. Scripture tells us a lot, and it's not a handbook for running a Christian private school in 2023 in the United States of America. But it does have some principles that we should pay attention to. Research is in education is ubiquitously badly done, and so we have to be extremely discerning as to which research we use and which we don't. And experience is, of course, enormously valuable, and experiences are always true, but we tend to draw the wrong conclusions from. And so experience is a very dangerous teacher. But if we find places where the three things coalesce, then we're in a really good place. We're in a really good place. And to your point, I'm sorry, I don't know your name, Beth, to Beth's point, when a child thinks that it's theirs, clearly that's the most powerful place to be in teaching. I mean, it seems self-evident, but for 200 years, our schools have done something different. And so is it time in 2023 to ride off into a different sunset? Just 10 seconds on Christian school management. This is our mission statement. We're for Jesus. We're non-denominational. Not because we're against denominations, but because through the eyes of the child, it doesn't matter. Let the little children come unto me and forbid them not. And the only thing between Jesus and the child is the adult, which is very, very useful to know for us in schools. Because the thing that stands between children and education is adults. And when we are facilitators and supporters of education, we are incredibly powerful. We know that outside of the family, that the teacher is the #1 influence on a child's future. We know that. But that influence can go in different directions. For some children, that has been extremely powerful, and we know many winning stories. For some children, it has been devastating. And so when we think about our influence and the place of adults in our school, that's key to what we're going to talk about today. So we're for Jesus. Let's keep it simple. Through mission, we won't go into a big exercise around mission because we don't have enough time, but I hope you all know your school's mission. Can you all nod if you know your school's mission, even if you're lying, because it'll make me feel better. Because if you don't know your mission, then you don't have any direction. And so we don't question your mission. We just say, what's the evidence that it's true in the life of your children? So if your mission ends with, in order to impact Christ for the next generation, then what opportunities are there for children to impact anything, let alone the next generation? And if there are no opportunities to impact, then your mission is just words. If you have leadership in your mission, in what sense do children practice leadership at all in your schools? And if they're not practicing leadership, then how can they be leaders, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's something for you to think about and go, yes, we have a wonderful mission. I agree with it totally. I think I know what it means. That's always a good conversation. What does it actually mean? And then is it actually true? Not just 20 years from now, but today. Today. So we've moved away at Christian School Management from the portrait of the graduate. How many of you have a portrait of the graduate? Oh, well, that's sad. So everybody who didn't put their hand up, write down portrait of the graduate. You need to know what your children are going to look like. In other words, in concrete terms, what does your mission look like in the life of a child? But we would advocate that you don't call it the portrait of the graduate, but the portrait of the child. Because the portrait of the graduate gives the teacher an out. Oh, that's what they're going to be like. So I'm going to do whatever I want today. The portrait of the child says, no, we're going to practice today what they're going to be like. Because if we don't practice today, they're not going to be like it. They're not going to magically at age 18 move out of our school and become this portrait. We have to practice it from age 3 or 4 or 2, whenever your school begins. And the irony of schools is that at age 2, 3, and 4, we teach correctly, and then we do it worse and worse and worse. It's a great irony. Whenever I'm working with high school faculty, I say, you should all spend a day in preschool and understand what it means to give up control. Because you don't control the classroom when you're teaching preschool. Anybody preschool here? No? But you've all seen it? You don't have control. You manage, you shape, you form, you provide, you guide, but you ain't in control. That 3-year-old is in control. That 3-year-old wants to go here, the 3-year-old's going to go there. You're not going to stop it. Your job is to make sure that wherever they go, it's going to be a safe and virtuous place. But ironically, in schools, the longer the child is at the school, the less able they are to do that. Isn't that ironic? At 3, they're self-actuating individuals who take control of their destiny and lead their own education. By the time they're 10 and 12 and 14, they've lost most of those capacities. So kindergartners are 95% tested at the genius level in creativity. And by the time they hit high school, we have to teach them to be creative. What happened in between? They are critical thinkers at age 4. And by the time they reach high school, we're teaching them critical thinking skills. What happened in between? It's remarkable. All right, so how many of you are academic leaders here? Only one? What are the rest of you? What do you do?
Secondary curriculum,
Okay, so you're an academic leader.
spiritual formation.
Okay, good. So when we use the word academic, I should have explained this, we think of it in a 21st century term. So some of us are still in the 20th century view of academics, which is math, English, social, and science, right? What we call core academics. I still see it on school websites. Core academics. And you go, really? In 2023? We see this in elementary schools. How many of you are elementary? Okay, we see this in elementary schools where they say, I have to teach the children in the morning because they're useless in the afternoon. And I go, oh, that's nice. So we completely exhaust them and then give them to our colleagues and say, hey, you deal with them now. Really? Bloom's taxonomy now has creativity at the top. At the top. So math, music, and art are now not core curriculum in 2023. We have to redefine what it means to be academic. So we define academic as mission delivery. Anything that contributes to mission delivery is academic from CSM's point of view. Everybody good? Think about that in conversations. It changes things quite radically. It changes power in schools, because sometimes we have, actually quite a lot, we have power centers in schools, do we not? I go into schools where the science department has a lot more power than other departments. They get extra time in the schedule. Or the math department has more power. Or we have power centers. We don't talk about power enough. We talk about mission delivery. But it's a fascinating study. So your job as an academic leader then is changing in 2023 from what it was in 1999, when we think about marching off into a different sunset. I can't remember, what did they say yesterday? Well, off the map. I should be using phraseology, shouldn't I? So when we're marching off the map, we also have to think about our job as being different. Sorry, what were you? High school principal?
Middle school principal.
Nice.
Elementary. principal.
Elementary, perfect.
Secondary dean of students,
What does that mean? Discipline?
middle school and high school discipline.
Okay, I got a slide about you. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. No, it's fun, Chris.
Secondary English.
Secondary English. You're a teacher? Fantastic. Do you want to be an administrator?
Oh, we're working towards something along those lines.
Okay, great. This will be helpful.
Secondary science,
Nice. You're a teacher too? Wonderful.
elementary principal,
Elementary principal? Head of school. All right.
guidance and academic counselor.
Yeah, so think about what that means in 2023 compared with 1999. And certainly when I started teaching in 1977, guidance is, well, we didn't have guidance in 1977. You either won or you lost, right? You were either kicked to the curb or you went to university. Yeah,
Athletic director.
athletic director, yeah.
Guidance.
The athletic director, is that part of mission delivery? Yeah. Exactly, right? Is it core curriculum? Yeah, definitely.
Associate is still for academics.
Associate head of school. I love titles with associate or assistant, you know. What does that mean? Everything I don't want to do. Yeah, so when we think about the responsibility of the academic leader, what word is not in here? Students. The academic leader's job is not students. What's the academic leader's job? Teachers. Teachers. In quotation marks, you have no interest in students as the academic leader. Your interest is in teachers. You gave that up when you moved to the dark side. And a lot of academic leaders don't like that. And so they do things like teach, which is terrible, terrible. Your job is to ensure that that teacher is extraordinary and to support that teacher in a very, very tough career vocation. Much, much harder than when I started teaching 40, 50 years ago. What else is in here? Thank you, very perceptive. Curriculum. We're going to come back to that later. Curriculum. We talk way too much about curriculum. We're getting sick of curriculum. Like curriculum, really? Curriculum. So from September through June, we should never talk about curriculum. Curriculum is a summer event. It requires intense thinking, intense work that's collaborative. It requires you to sit down for days at a time. And I mean that literally. Every teacher should sit down in the summer for 2 to 5 days with colleagues in order to develop curriculum. That makes curriculum very important and it puts it in the right place. During the year, we should never talk about curriculum because it's done. We're finished. What should we be talking about? Sorry?
Instruction and assessment.
Thank you. Pedagogy. We don't talk nearly enough about pedagogy. We talk way too much about curriculum. This is true in athletics too. We talk way too much about what we're going to teach, and we talk way too little about how we're going to teach it. So during the year, we should speak only about pedagogy, and only is a little rhetorical. And in the summer, we should talk about what? Because we need time. And I'm constantly going into Christian schools where we're trying to develop curriculum as we're going along. And I'm going, why are you spending so much wasted time? You should be talking about how. Why is this kid not getting it? That's what we need to talk about. Why is this kid getting it? What am I doing that's so brilliant over here that's flunking over here? So, at your tables, here's a little exercise for you. Everybody ready? If you're on a table on your own, just turn around and work with people behind you or next to you. So yeah, you've got 3 minutes, and you must write down the answer. You've got 18 kids with a good teacher. Nothing wrong with the teacher. Of the 18 kids, how many will get an A? How many will get a B? How many will get a C? How many will get a D? And how many will fail? You got 3 minutes, go.
90% get no.
Literally 3 minutes.
Teacher and content. Bell curve.
She's other kids, so she's all.
Not intentionally, but like, does it end up?
One a D, and that's the kid they want to.
Just assume it's a good teacher. However you
Yeah.
It's not that big of an exercise. Just assume yes to all those questions. We'll make it too complicated.
Well, I'm thinking about it all.
Actually, you're just trying to avoid it.
Minus the 1 or 2.
Okay, you got a minute and a half left.
Well, now I'm counting these.
I think that's
Yeah. We don't have
no, but you're fighting to motivate them.
They're when the failure reports.
25 seconds.
And it involves
Yeah.
Somebody write it down.
around the grading period. Towards the end of the grading period, you can start to kick it into high gear, you know. The first couple
3
of
weeks
are
in, you
different.
don't have
Yeah,
a
the
lot.
first 3 weeks versus the last 14. We do quarters.
We need numbers.
And zero.
Yeah, but I think they're different.
She is.
The TV's ideally
A lot more A's.
kids average.
Things be a lot more A's.
Filter. That's what my default in my classroom.
You have all sorts of, well.
Right, and that's the thing.
5 and 1.
Because the parents were trying to aim for the ideal of those to excel really excel. For me, it's like, I'd say like 4 A's, 6 A's,
Yeah.
16, 2 B's.
4.
All right, let's go around the room. Just shout out the number. We'll start with A's. Let's start with that table there. Just shout out, go around the room in this order. Go. How many A's? 12. Thank you.
9.
9.
That's probably right.
3.
4.
4.
12.
12.
12.
12. We got everybody. How many B's? Same route. Let's go a little faster.
3.
3.
4.
Thank you.
8.
Yep.
9.
Yep.
5.
Yep.
Till this last one.
C's. Same thing.
3.
3.
2.
2.
7.
7.
3.
Yep.
1.
Yep.
2.
D's.
0,
Yep,
2,
yep,
0,
yep,
1,
yep.
0,
Uh-huh.
2.
0.
All right, F's.
0,
Yep,
1,
yep,
0,
uh-huh,
0.
yep,
0,
mm-hmm,
0.
yep. We get everybody? All right, how do I get this back on? What did he do? Ah. That's not what he did. Oh, come on.
No clue.
I think you need to share your content. If you look up here on this Mimeo board right here, it
Yeah,
says share content.
second.
Oh, you disabled it.
New people.
Ah.
Good for us. That's what us. We had girls' school on it.
It's frustrating.
Too much of a problem. Yeah, I'm not a big fan. I'm not a fan of cheating, talking, and everybody else.
I didn't work my time down.
2 deaths.
Oh. All right, so if you think about each of these groups as being a teacher, which teacher do you want? The teacher that's going to give 12 A's, right? What's the mindset of the teacher that says 12?
You're going to learn.
You're going to learn. So we're not talking here about dumbing down, reducing the challenge, nothing like that. We're talking about the attitude that says, I don't believe in the Gaussian curve. I don't believe in that. I believe that every child is made imago Dei and every child is brilliant. And every child will get an A. Try this with your teachers. And then say, which child would you want your child in? Which class would you want your child in? This teacher over here who believes 2 of you are going to fail? Or this teacher over here who believes all of you are going to succeed? Now, in real life, what will happen? We don't know. But what's my starting point? What do I believe about children? We could spend a good day on that. What do I believe about children? Do I believe that they're irredeemably fallen and therefore subject to damnation and not able to do anything? Or do I believe something different? Do I believe this? Do I believe that? Great exercise, right? What do I believe about children in 2023? So here's what we believed in 1977. We believed that we needed to weed as many children out as possible because we didn't want them to go to university. because there were not enough leadership positions in society. They were going to go into white-collar offices where there was a manual where they were expected to follow instructions. They were going to go into factories where there was a process that they were expected to follow instructions. We did not need critical creative thinkers. Critical creative thinkers are a real pain in the ass, if you'll pardon the expression. Those of you who are currently teaching know exactly what I mean. I got 15 critical creative thinkers. My life is going to be much harder because they're going to question what I do all the time. And if I don't like being questioned, my life is not going to be very easy. You have teachers like that, do you not? I don't want to be questioned. I just want to get through the curriculum. Dreadful, dreadful word. So let's see. There are three things that we need to do. Three things that we need to do. First, we need to create time. Because if we want students to own their own education, the education has to be deep. We don't want them to own an education which is on the surface. Memorize and replicate. That's what I did for 12 years of my education, and memorized and replicated. I passed exam after exam after exam. The 11 plus when I was 11 years old, the O levels when I was 15 years old, A levels when I was 18 years old. Memorize and replicate. But we want deeper learning, deeper learning. And we don't know how to do this except through creating what we call a Christian professional learning community. Now, how many of you know the term professional learning community? Yeah. It's one of the very few buzzwords that CSM is totally in favor of. Richard and Rebecca Dufour, who got this thing going, have impeccable credentials, and their work is staggering. And so when we think about the Christian professional learning community, we go, how can we create deeper learning when I'm isolated? I have to be within the context of my colleagues, otherwise I can't get better to the point that I need to. I can certainly get better, there's no doubt about it, on my own. Put me on a desert island and I can self-improve. But put me in the middle of a group like this, and I'm going to improve a whole lot better and in much deeper ways. So the Christian professional learning community then becomes crucial to that process. But teachers will say to me, and to you as academic leaders, where's the time? It's all very well to say we need to be a community, but I work all day long. I correct papers. I'm working with kids. I'm meetings. Where am I going to find the time to do this? So here are some suggestions. Remember I said at the beginning, this has been done. None of this is theoretical in the sense of we think this might be a good idea. These are all things that have been done. How do I create time for teachers to go deep? What does deep mean? What do I have to do in order to go deep? Critically think, ask questions, not just lecture.
That's the ability to connect and extend content so students can do that.
Fantastic. Connect and extend. We need to go to metacognition, right? We need to go to practices which take the child a level down. We need to go to the why, not just the how and the what. So if you think about Socratic questioning and the levels of questioning, we go from this level at the bottom of Bloom's taxonomy to this level at the top of Bloom's taxonomy. Guess what? That takes a lot of time, does it not? Does it not? So we can think about this in any area of the school's work. I was involved in a school that had a very extensive outdoor education program. We did snowshoeing. And I was training the snowshoe team. It's a pretty Canadian thing. And we did 1,200 miles of practice every year. And the head of school came in and said, we're not a snowshoeing school. So the amount of time that you're going to be given for snowshoeing is going to be drastically reduced, and you're only going to be able to do 800 miles. We went, well, we're going to lose all our races. He said, well, then you'll lose all your races, but that's what you got. And so we had to change the paradigm and think much more intelligently. And when we were forced to do that, we actually increased the average speed of our teams and proceeded to win the next 3 races until our competition caught up to us. But to do these things is highly inefficient. So my eldest daughter did AP biology. Anybody teach AP biology here? You don't teach AP biology? Oh, thank God for that. Yeah, so I'm a researcher, so I said, I'm going to find out what AP biology takes. And she had to turn a page every 4.5 minutes in a 180-day year. She had to turn a page every 4.5 minutes to get through that curriculum. How much deep learning happened? Zero. 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 She got through AP English with a 4, not having read a single book. How much learning took place? None. So we have to create time for our teachers if we're going to get them to go deep. I can't turn a page every 4.5 minutes and then say to the teachers, I'm holding you accountable for metacognition, for extending learning, for going up Bloom's taxonomy. So how do we do that? Well, some schools have done it by eliminating curriculum. Do you think that would be revolutionary in your school? We know we need to know stuff, but we also know we don't need to know as much as we used to. The cognitive psychologists have been very clear. We have to know in order to think. We can't rely on Google search. We have to know in order to think. The question is, how much do we have to know? And these schools have reduced curriculum by 50% and increased learning. That's an aha. Making time, providing extended time. So can you teach metacognition in a 40-minute period? How many of you still have 40-minute periods? None of you, fantastic. How about 50-minute periods? A couple of you? 60-minute? 70? 80? Anybody longer than 80? 90? Very nice. What about in elementary and middle school? What are the length of periods there? What's the longest period? We have a couple of elementary people. What's the longest period you have in elementary?
They're all self-contained, so they're very good with, like, I need this long today for this and this long for this. We have 90-minute blocks in 4th and 5th grade that switch.
Yeah.
And they do 2 subjects.
So 90 minutes? What about in 1st and 2nd? What's the longest period of time a teacher will take on a single subject?
40, 50 minutes.
40, 50 minutes?
We do English language arts from the time they get to school, 8:15 until recess at 10.
So that's an hour and 3/4. So that's what, 105 minutes? Nice, nice. What do you think the longest period is in the USA today? One teacher, one class, one subject. Longest period. Come on, guess. You know I'm leading you down the garden path, so you might as well follow me down there. What do you think? What's the longest period you can imagine?
The whole day.
A whole day. Great. Anybody imagine anything else? So the longest period in the United States today is 15 days. 15 days. Do you think you can do deep learning in 15 days? So let's take our science friend. I've got a 50-minute period, and I want to teach a process. there's a certain amount of content I need to know. Maybe I need to know the table of elements, but the periodic table, but I need the kids to understand the process. I need them to think about the topic. I need them to think about how to test that. I need them to set up the experiment. I need them to carry out the experiment. I need to write observations. I need them to reflect on the experiment. I need them to discuss the experiment. I need them to write up the lab report. I need them to put all the machinery away. How long does that take? How long does that take?
She's science. I'm English.
Oh, you're English. You're English. Well, we can talk about English too, right?
Yes, okay.
How long does that take?
Definitely more than a day.
Yeah, a long time, right? So when we say provide extended time, we're not thinking about a block schedule per se, although it could be. We're thinking about long periods of time where I can actually go deep. When we interview children all the time. So we speak from firsthand experience. And when we ask them about their learning, one of the common complaints is that the bell constantly interrupts them. They're constantly interrupted in their learning. They get excited about, of course, sometimes they say the periods are too long. They wish the bell would show up sooner, which begs other questions. But often they'll say, we're just in the middle of something at all ages. This is not just high school, at all ages. They'll say, we're just in the middle of something, and the bell goes off. And then I have to come back to it and do it later. And I'm not in the mode anymore, and so I get a poorer mark. But why did I get the poorer mark? It wasn't my fault. It was the circumstance the school put me in. I didn't deserve a B, I deserved a B plus, or maybe an A minus, or maybe an A plus. But I could have because I was interrupted. You know what Mikhail Shensimai talks about in terms of flow. I was in flow. Time didn't matter anymore. There was no emotion. I was just in the mode. I was in flow. And then the bell went. How about eliminating grading? How much time would that create for teachers? Yeah? That create a lot of time, right? What does grading do? Sorry? So when I'm talking about grading, let me be specific. I'm talking about, I'm an English teacher. I get a bunch of essays. I write a bunch of comments, and I put 85 at the bottom. What does that do? What impact does it have on the kid?
Checking the box.
Zero. Zero. What does the kid do? Looks at the mark. If it's a good mark, they throw it out. They go, yeah, I'm a good student. If it's a bad mark, they throw it out. And they go, I'm a bad student. There's no metacognition happening the moment you put the mark on. This has been proven experimentally for 40 years, folks, and we're still doing it. We're still filling in mark books as if it matters. All it does is degrade learning. Isn't that amazing? The thing we've been doing for 40 years, we've proven it over and over and over again. Every decade, we do new experiments and prove again that grading degrades performance. Suppose I didn't have to grade. What could I spend that time doing?
Exploring ways to create metacognition.
Yeah. I could sit down with the kid side by side, and we could talk about their work, and I could give formative feedback. I don't want to give you a grade. I want to treat you as if you're on an educational journey, not a series of events. Each event completely destroying your future or enhancing your future. I was not into it today. I got a 58. Oh, it goes in the mark book. You would now have no chance whatsoever of getting an A plus at the end of the semester. Zero chance, because we just aggregate all our grades and pretend that it makes statistical sense, and it doesn't. It makes statistical nonsense. We could do a whole day on statistics and grading and all that kind of stuff. But it wastes our time, and it actually degrades academic performance. Wow. Suppose we use that time instead to teach them how to self-evaluate. or to help each other evaluate. I'm not trying to take me out of the process as the authority. I am the authority. But I'm trying to give the learning back to the child. I need you at the end of the semester to be able to do what I do. How about we eliminate formal homework? What does homework achieve?
Frustration.
See how well the parents know it.
Frustration, parents. And we're still giving homework according to 10 minutes by level. So we've decided that first grade is called first grade, so we'll give them 10 minutes because it begins with a 1. And in second grade, we'll give them 20 minutes because it begins with a 2. Like, how asinine, right? How did we create an educational system that came up with nonsense like that? Really? So here's an interesting thing. There are schools that don't give homework at all. The kids do homework in those schools.
If they're inspired to learn, they look it up when they get home.
Absolutely. Yeah, kids do a lot of homework in those schools. Because what are kids? They're learning machines, right? They have to learn. That's how God made them. You can't stop a kid learning. When we say a kid isn't doing work, what we mean is a kid isn't doing the work that I wanted them to do. They're doing work. They're always doing work. They're always learning. It's just that we get frustrated when they don't learn what we want them to learn. So when we say eliminate formal homework, we're not saying that at the end of school stops. We're just saying that it's our responsibility to create an environment where they want to carry on. If I'm interested in it, I will continue. How many of you have been, I'm sure you've all been teachers, even though you might be administrators now. How many of you have been in a situation where the lesson went so well that when you left, they carried on talking amongst themselves? And if you were a good teacher, it happened a lot. I'm not saying it happened every day. It certainly didn't happen every day because you weren't that good and they weren't that good every day. But maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks, you would leave and that conversation just kept going. Or you'd come into class and they would come in and say, hey, Mr. So-and-so or Miss So-and-so, I looked this up last night and I want to share what I found out. Those were the great days when I was a teacher. When kids did that, I didn't think about it. I just thought, oh, that's cool. Now I think about it more systemically as a consultant. But that's what we're looking for, right? It doesn't happen all the time. So there is always an element of compulsion that it's hard to avoid with human beings because of our nature. But we're always trying to go to the deeper nature, the way in which God intended us to be. So if we eliminated 50% of curriculum, grading, formal homework, and gave teachers lots of time to teach, that would make a difference. So let's go to the second thing. Within that context, can we make the child a partner? So why do children come to school? Why do children come to school? Who said that? Yes, yes, yes. Because they have to. They're forced to. It's required by the government. And if you go down a couple of layers, you find out that the penalties for not going to school, whatever kind of school it is, whether it's homeschooling or charter school or private school or Christian school or public school, whatever kind of school it is, the penalties for not doing that are severe. Every year I go look at what happens to kids who don't go to school. Like I search out stories in the news and I find 15-year-olds who are put in juvenile detention center. I find children who are taken away from their parents and put with foster parents. I find parents who are fined. This is pretty draconian, right? Talk about, I don't know how Republicans feel about this. It's not a political statement, just funny, right? We force children to go to school. What about the adults? Why do they go to school? Why do we go to school?
Better off. You're excited about learning.
Yeah, I'm excited about learning, opportunity. Let's be banal, paycheck. I want to have an impact in the life of a child. I love teaching. But we voluntarily show up. So when we talk about making the child a partner, this is a revolutionary idea in a situation where the child has no choice and you have choice. So when we talk about making the child a partner, we're talking about reversing that power dynamic. And we're saying, we actually want you to participate in the act of learning rather than be forced to, even though you are. So let's look at that. So being child-centered. This is a school in Michigan, a lovely school in Michigan. This is on their website. I'll just get you to read that. So it's a descriptor on their website. Everybody recognize this kind of descriptor? I was on all of your websites and all of you had verbiage that paralleled this. What do you think about this? That's a genuine question. It's not a trap.
It doesn't tell you a lot.
Well, let's start with the positives. Let's start with the positives. What's really nice about this?
It's unique.
Yeah, you know I'm going to go to the negatives at some point, so that's okay. I get it. But let's start with the positives. Well, it's unique. Yeah. Well, what else about it?
Hands-on learning for 5th and 6th graders.
Talks about something that's interesting that 5th and 6th graders might be attracted to. Yeah.
Distinctly Christian perspective.
Yeah, it puts it within a Christian perspective. Just some really good stuff. The word unique is great. I'm going to a school that provides something that nobody else is providing in our area. There's lots of good things about it. So now let's go to the challenges, what we might think of as the black hat. That's the yellow hat. Let's think about the black hat. What are the challenges with this? Now remember, I've only given you a paragraph. There's a whole bunch of other stuff. What's the subject of the sentence? Program, right? Why is that problematic?
It's not student focused. It's not student focused. It's actually program focused.
It's program focused. It's program focused. What does it feature?
The learning experience.
Being based.
A curriculum. Curriculum. So it's an abstraction talking about an abstraction. What is education? So I'm going to answer that question. It's fundamentally a relationship between a child and a teacher within a learning environment that results in growth. It's relationship, right? There's nothing here about relationship. There's nothing here about the child except as an object of the sentence. It's what we're going to do to your children, even though it's very positive. It's a wonderful program. So this is how we might rewrite it. Same header. That's the actual header on the website. What's good about that? Let's yellow hat that.
Initiative.
It's got some good words in it as well. What's the subject of the sentence? Students. Students. What does it say about students?
Lifelong course.
It identifies who they are. It references the mission of the school and the portrait of the child. It says, this is who we think your child is. Is that a positive picture? So if I was reading media headlines about children, what are typical media headlines I read? Overwhelmed by social media, lonely, all the kinds of words that Tim Elmore was talking about on in his opening. Suicidal ideation. So we're talking about 5th and 6th grade students here. Suicide is the leading cause of death, or the second leading cause of death amongst 10 to 13-year-olds. That's what we read in the media. What's this school now presenting? No, that's, of course, yeah, but that's not what we do. We do something entirely different. We're a Christian school. We come at this differently. What would be a black hat for this? What would be a challenge for this? Well, come on, nothing's perfect.
The responsibility that they're going to have to take care of the world God's given them.
Yeah, living it out, right? This is easy to do. Anybody can provide a unique learning experience in a program that has a curriculum. But this is hard. This is a parent who in October is going to say, my child isn't acting like a lifelong explorer. What's the problem? Well, give us another couple of months, like. But it's sort of an exciting program. These are program highlights. Same school. Okay, yellow hat. What's great about this? You got scores? Well, let's come on. What's great about this?
It implies they know how students learn best.
Yes, absolutely. We finally have the students in a subordinate clause as a subject. Nice if that was up front. But what else is good about this?
Full range of.
Full range. Yeah. Everybody's going to have something they're interested in. So some really nice stuff about that. But if we rewrote that with the child as the partner, maybe it would look like this. The quote, by the way, is from one of the children of the school. How'd you feel if you were a parent thinking about this school for your child?
Your child to go.
Sorry?
You want your child to go there.
Would you want your child to go to this one nearly as much? Maybe you would, but your child wouldn't. And I suspect you wouldn't either. Like this is just, it's child-centered, right? And sometimes in Christian schools, we're a little scared of child-centered. We say, well, we're Christ-centered. Okay, well, let's call it child-focused. I don't care. Of course we're Christ-centered. But once we've got that context, biblical integration, child-centered, our faith is central to what we do, then what's next? Is the next thing curriculum, or is the next thing the child? Is the next thing my program, or is the next thing the child? Is the next thing the teacher, or is the next thing the child? And in a school, if we're going to have our children as partners, it better be the child. Then we could talk about the program and the curriculum and all those other things. But can we put the child first? And why not get our children to advocate for us? This is, we don't have any Montessori schools here, so I can say this. I'm always saying to Montessori schools, you know, your problem marketing wise is that you're constantly trying to tell your parents what Montessori education is. They don't care. They just see the word Montessori and there's a whole bunch of connotations and they like those. And so they send your kids, they don't care what it is. They don't need to understand it. It's the same with you. We don't need to understand that we have a comprehensive standard-based program which meets ministry requirements, blah, blah, blah. I mean, we put that in a little paragraph at the bottom just to cover the political stuff. But that's not what we care about. This is what we care about. We care about what happens in the life of my kid. All the theory, all that other stuff. As a parent, I don't care. As a kid, I don't care. I just care about my experience with my peer group. My experience, individual, within the community. That's what I care about. So, this is for you, Chris. So we profoundly believe at CSM that over 90% of student misbehavior is caused by the adults in the school. That's not rhetorical. We actually believe that to be true. And the reason we believe that to be true is that we have so much experience and so much experiential data that shows that we can change the discipline profile of a school by changing the context within which children are educated. So let me give a direct example. I'm a scheduler. I'm one of the top 6 scheduling experts in North America. There are only 6 scheduling experts in North America, but I am one of them. And I was at a school and I was looking at their discipline profile. And 29.7% of their discipline in middle school, 29.7% of their discipline problems happened in 5th period. I hadn't been to the school. I was just beginning my investigation of the data. And I looked at this, 29.7% of the discipline issues happened in 5th period. So I called the middle school director. I said, I just started looking at this stuff. I said, can you tell me about 5th period? He said, what do you mean? I said, is 5th period a study period? He said, yeah. I said, is 5th period a full class period? He said, yeah. He said, I said, is 5th period right before lunch? He said, yeah. I said, I can eliminate every one of those discipline issues in 5th period. He said, how? I said, I'm not going to tell you till I come, otherwise you won't pay me. So we made one tiny change in the schedule, and we didn't just eliminate 29.7%, we eliminated 36.2% of discipline issues in that school, just by adding a break and reducing the length of the study period. 2 changes, I lied. Was it? Wasn't the kid's fault. One of the discipline ones, you wouldn't have laughed, but I laughed, was this 8th grade kid who was literally running across the desks in the study hall, for which he was severely sanctioned. I said, folks, you're punishing him for biology. It's not moral. He had to run across the desk. It's biology. It's biology, folks. We're constantly moralizing about student behavior and ignoring the fact that we're mammals. If I have got to 5th period and I haven't had access to food, my blood sugar level is dropped and I'm not able to control my emotional amygdala center. I'm literally not able to control it. And so if I have no outlet, and the only outlet is in my classroom, I'm going to run across the desk because you've given me nowhere else to run. I don't want to run across the desk. It's not fun. So I say to schools, children do not come to school to misbehave. They have to lose. The power imbalance is so dramatic that they have to lose. So why would a child misbehave? Well, 5% because we're sinful beings and we're just bullshit sometimes. Let's face it, we as adults misbehave too. I'm going to bet that I'm going to give 10% of you the benefit of the doubt. 90% of you have speeded in the last week. You misbehaved. You should be fined, all of you. Not? We all misbehave, but that's only 5%. The other 90% plus, they misbehaved because they were being placed in a position where they had to. So let me give you an example from teaching. We're looking at a school that didn't have discipline issues, but let's face it, we're in about as ideal environment as we possibly can be. Why we have discipline issues at all is somewhat confusing. We have supportive parents, we have kids who, yeah, it's complicated, it's complex, I know. I actually do know. But this particular class had a lot of discipline issues. And these kids were wrangling. And so I said, well, why do you think that is? Well, no, I said, why do you think that is? Well, the reason it was is because the teacher was incredibly boring. Well, if you're an incredibly boring teacher, I'm going to misbehave. I'm sorry. You're wasting my time, right? The teacher should be punished, not me. My time is being wasted. Kids are very aware of this. Kids want to be challenged. Here's another myth that kids don't want to work hard. Kids want to work extraordinarily hard. Let me say that again. Kids want to work extraordinarily hard. Things that matter. But if their time is being wasted, one of the questions we routinely ask when we're doing children focus groups is, in what ways do your teachers waste your time? What do you think the number one way is? You all know it. What's the number one way? No, because lecture can actually be very, very useful, right? Lecture is a perfectly acceptable form of teaching, as long as you don't overuse it. It's good for transmitting information. So number one way. No?
Taking the time to discipline other kids instead of finishing your instruction.
These are all true, but it's not the number one. The number one way is worksheets. Worksheets. Kids look at it and they go, yeah, our teacher doesn't know what to do. So they give us worksheets. You see the photocopiers just whirring all day long. You go, really? You need a photocopier that much? Like, that's a problem, right? So when we make children partners, we actually listen to them. And we can reduce children's misbehavior by at least 50%. I've done it myself in schools. And then people like Chris, instead of being the ugly person on campus, is the person who genuinely is the dean of student affairs, where students become part of the infrastructure of the school. And we engage with them. We say, wow, what can we do next? What can we do next? What can we do next? Somebody was telling me yesterday about their experience at school where they asked the kids what they wanted. And the kids said, we need a complete new paint job. We got this awful paint on the walls. It's just a story I heard yesterday. Awful paint job on the walls, and it's just terrible. It's boring, it's dull, and there are no school colors. So the person went away, came back and said, sorry, we can't afford it. They said, well, what if we did it? They said, okay, what does that look like? So they went to the local paint store and got the person to donate $1,500 of paint. Then they did 4 or 5 different fundraisers, cleaning cars, whatever, to get the paint brushes and all the rest of it. And then this group of kids who was spearheading this then said to the rest of the kids, we're going to do these 5 Saturdays and paint the school. We expect everybody to participate. You have to come all 5 Saturdays, but you have to come and help. Even if you just come and make cookies, if you don't like painting. So we got something to eat. And they painted the school. That's called children's partners. You see, kids want to do that kind of stuff. I've got a book on my shelf written by 2 18-year-olds who say, challenge us. That's the title of the book. It's not actually the title of the book.
Do hard things.
Do hard things. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Do hard things. Kids are fed up of doing easy things. It's boring. It's boring. Do hard things. Children as partners. We can eliminate this behavior. On behalf of what? On behalf, in a context, oh geez, I'm running out of time here. In a context which demands something totally different from when I started teaching. Totally different. This is the context. What are the jobs? Employment by work from the Federal Bank of St. Louis, non-routine cognitive, sky high. That's where the new jobs are. Non-routine manual, increasing dramatically. Routine, following instructions, compliance, doing what you're told, flat. That's not where the future is. It's not where the future is. What do our classrooms represent? What does making children partners represent for us? I got tons and tons of stuff around this. So what does that mean? When children are partners, it means that we go along with them on their journey, their learning journey, not ours, their learning journey. We're with them on their learning journey. And I'm just going to do one of these, this one here. Every child's success. I was on one of the school's websites that's at the conference. I don't know if you're in the room or not. And my heart sank because it was all about our SAT scores are 1451. Our acceptance to college is X%. Our this is that. And I'm going, okay, well, that's good public relations, but it's meaningless to the child that had an SAT of 1200 or 900. It's meaningless to the kid who failed, in quotation marks, to get into college. It's meaningless to the idea of average is a 20th, late 19th century concept, which is antithetical to Christian thinking. Antithetical to Christian thinking. It was fundamental to the eugenics movement throughout the 20th century. We still use it in the concept of IQ, which is originally used in the First World War to identify soldiers who were going to be sent to the front and die, compared with soldiers who won. It's the most horrendous thing that happened to, one of the most horrendous things that happened to education. We should never, never, never as Christian school deal with the average. There is no average. Every child is unique, made in the image of God. And as a partner has incredible value. And sometimes schools get through that concept by saying, well, yeah, they'll have a special calling somewhere else. They really can't do A, B, C, D, E, F. We go, really? Is that what you believe about children? So how do we share control so children can own education? Notice the word share. We're still the adults in the room. We're not stopping being the adults in the room. And how can children own? Because it's their education. I think you said right at the beginning. It's their education, it's not ours. So just read this quote from Salman Khan. I don't know if any of you use standardized testing, another dreadful thing. So he's addressing a group of 300 MIT students. He's a graduate of MIT, and he was obviously asked to come back and talk. This is a YouTube video, 90 minutes long. Not like those shorties, those things, what are they called? Yeah, those kinds of things, like pretend intellectualism. And so I'm listening to this and doing some work. The first 30 minutes, he's talking about how Khan Academy got started. I knew the story, so that was sort of boring. So I was just listening half. And then he came to this about 36 minutes in. And he throws up a data array. So I want you to think about this. Mathematical concepts across the top, divided into tiny, tiny pieces. Everybody got that? The columns. Down the side, the names of children in the classes that they were working in. And the colors in the cells were either green, the child had done the work and been successful, red, the child had failed and moved on because they had not been able to accomplish it, or yellow, they were still working on it. He said, we do what everybody else does. At the beginning of the year, we do the pretest to find out where children are at. And in a normal school, we identify those at the top of the Gaussian curve as being kids who need extra. We identify those in the middle as being average, so anybody can teach them. And then we identify those at the bottom as probably needing help. Everybody with me? That's what we do in pretest. He said, but in Khan Academy, we don't do that because every kid is an individual in Khan Academy. He said, so as you go through, you can see this Gaussian curve remains. There is always a distribution of achievement. But I want you to think now about your own experience as a teacher. Because then he said this, and I bolted upright and I replayed it maybe 5 times to make sure that I heard it correctly. He said this. He said, but the population in the distribution continues to change. Those at the bottom move up and back. Those at the top move down. No, there's this constant movement. That is mind-blowing for a 20th century educator. Think about the implications of that. He said, so he points to the 300 MIT students in front of him. He said, you are an accident of time. You happen to take the exam at the right time. Think about what we're doing to kids when we believe that they are this at the bottom of the Gaussian curve. Think what we're doing to them. We need to recognize, we pay lip service to the idea that every child is individual. Thank you. Yeah, I've only got 3 minutes, right? And it's true. In this particular research study, we were testing episodic memory. These are all different kids. They're all completely different brain systems. Entirely different. Like not just a little bit, entirely different. Read this. This was from a Christian middle school that we were working with. So think about kids owning their education in an environment where they can't take risks. Because if I take a risk, the mark will go in the grade book and I have no chance to recover. Taking a risk is a bad thing. What I want to know is what you want from me. When I know what you want from me, I can give it to you because that will get me what I need in order to beat the system. The biggest obstacle to change in our schools is not the teachers, it's not the administration, it's not the parents, it's the 4.0 student. It's the 4.0 student. Because they know how to work the system. And if you change it, that's unfair. The fact is we want them all to be 4.0, depending on where they are on their journey. So 3 major ownership ideas. Do we give kids choice, meaningful choice? One Bible teacher came up to me during the session and he said, well, what would you do in Bible? I said, well, what do you want to teach in Bible? I said, let me guess. In 9th grade, you do an overview of the New Testament. In 10th grade, you do an overview of the Old Testament. In 11th grade, you do an overview of the Gospels. In 12th grade, you do. He said, yeah, pretty much. I said, yeah, it's pretty ubiquitous in Christian schools. I said, what would it look like if you did an overview of the New Testament in 9th grade and you said to the kids, you can pick whatever book you want. You're going to get 4 weeks to study it. Here's the study guide. This is what I expect you to be able to do at the end of it. And the 4 weeks after that, you're each going to teach your peers what you've learned about your book. So at the end of the time, everybody will have done everything, but they will have done it in a completely different way than me lecturing from the front of the classroom and showing how clever I am and that I got an MDiv. He said, wow, So I'm not sure I could give up control like that. I said, that's a good way to put it. You cannot maximize a child's potential until you give up control. You are always the limiting factor. You, me, are always the limiting factor. Report cards. What would it look like if the child wrote their own report card? This is how I'm doing. Rather than triangulating the conversation and having me write about them to somebody else without their input. I should know how I'm doing. Shouldn't I? Whether I'm 6 years old or whether I'm 16 years old, I should know how I'm doing. I should be able to articulate that as part of metacognition. I should be able to explain what that looks like. And therefore, the third thing is I should be able to lead my own parent conferences. The teacher's going to be there supporting. The teacher's going to help me to prepare for it, but I should be able to lead my own conference. I should be able to tell my parents how I'm doing. Why do you tell my parents how I'm doing and I'm not even in the room? I'm invisible. Wow. How cool is that? All right, so if you want the slides, happy to give them to you. Just give me information or just email me, however you want to do it. Anything's good. Are you good? Is your head moving? I mean, your brain moving? Got lots to think about? Let's get off the mat. Okay, that was gratuitous. Thank you.
On that looks like-